This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Let's bring in our guy, Richard Davenport, now into the program. Richard, to the topic I just kind of opened this segment with, how does that work for not just Sam Pittman, but the rest of the staff when talking to these guys that either have committed or trying to commit when they go through a losing streak like this?
Obviously you talk about the games in the past week and the game coming up, and you also hit on how they're playing, their season, how their family's doing. So there's a little bit of everything that you kind of hit on. It just depends on the kid, what's going on with the kid, family wise, personally, how's school doing, and things like that. But I mean, hey, you just try to keep them on board and just let them know that, hey, we need you, and you're the reason why we're recruiting you to help us improve. And obviously, I think that they probably go over the game a little bit and kind of discuss the pros and the cons, and especially at their position, and just talk about what happened on that Saturday, and then discuss how they're going to attack Ole Miss on Saturday.
Richard, we looked at the schedule from just a soul toughness standpoint on the field, but I wonder for off the field, the inability to bring kids on campus for 4 straight weeks. I mean, how tough is that on a staff?
It's tough because you're usually talking about, hey, you're trying to get them on campus, and then you can't get them on campus for quite some time. Obviously, you can plan ahead, but that's definitely a disadvantage. Just from the standpoint, what if it's a kid that says, "Coach, hey, I'm available this weekend or on this date," and you're out of town, and then the coach says, "Well, what about the next 2 or 3 weekends?" And he may have already dates set for other visits. So to be on the road like that for that long is obviously quite unusual, and it's not ideal for getting guys on campus, obviously, and it's not ideal trying to line up visits. I mean, obviously you try to line up visits ahead of time, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of times kids make last-second decisions sometimes. And if they say, "Well, Coach, I can come this weekend," well, we're not at home. But it's something you obviously plan ahead and work around. But at the same time, it can be difficult just because kids, they have an open date and you're not there.
And I just wonder, that last date with Missouri being Thanksgiving weekend, how available kids really are. I mean, I know for some, your high school season's over. For others, you're in the playoffs, but it's also a family weekend where got other obligations, and you only got 2 other dates in November than the one in October. So it really puts a lot of pressure trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle together to get people on campus for the experience.
Yeah, if you're a family in the region, it's not too difficult. Even though a lot of times, families kind of like to, have several days of being together beyond Thanksgiving. So sometimes a mom, mom usually makes the decision on this stuff. We know that. And Aunt Betty and Uncle Ray, they came all the way from, so-and-so, and you're going to stick around here, and we're going to spend some more time with them over the next few days. I think that could be a little difficult, but for the most part, they still have a pretty good amount of kids show up for that game.
Yeah, Ty kind of touched on it, but when a team's having a hard time, is that the turnoff that people on social media and people that get on message boards and people think that it just really shuts down your recruiting completely? I mean, what's your experience talking with coaches and with kids and with parents? Is this last couple of weeks a turnoff, and now people don't want to visit or they're no longer interested? What kind of feedback in general, just talking in generalities, does this create for Arkansas?
I haven't heard any kids say anything about, boy, this is kind of a turnoff. But obviously, whenever you win, the conversations are always a little bit more positive, and kids are a little bit more excited. But at the same time, a lot of it depends on your relationship with that kid. If you have a pretty good relationship, and you're a guy that as a coach can connect with them, a lot of times that can overcome a negative negative season or a negative few weeks. But at the same time, it can create. Usually, when you're on a winning streak, it's easier to get kids to your game. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I think you have to look at it at a case by case basis. Some kids put a premium on winning, and if you're kind of close to get them on campus, and you go through a little bit of a losing streak, that could kind of say, well, Coach, I'm probably going to go see somebody else or something. I've been talking to them for a while or something like that. But again, it's just each individual is different, and their likes and dislikes about a situation, as far as a team and how they're doing is different.
Richard Davenport with us on the McLarty Daniel Hotline. Richard, I had someone send me a link of 247's talent composite rankings, talks about high school kids on campus, transfer portal, and combines it all and rank the SEC teams. Arkansas is 13th in the rankings right now, only ahead of Vanderbilt. I mean, when you look at what's on this roster right now, do they have what it takes to compete in the SEC West the rest of the way?
Well, obviously, we're going to find out. But I think with what you're facing now is, and I think every school has kind of faced it a little bit, but maybe even more so with Arkansas. You look at that first recruiting class with Coach Pittman and staff. There's not. None of the offensive linemen in that class are still on campus, and then in the first two classes, Manuel is the only one that's in the two deep. So I think we're seeing part of the reason why what's going on with Arkansas, especially on the offensive line, is that those first two classes, only one guy is still on campus. And that right there is, I think, showing up. Obviously, you had Brad Davis, who was the offensive line coach the first 2 years, first two recruiting classes. Then he left after the second year during the summer to LSU. Mm-hmm. The last few classes, you got Mania, you got Harris, you got Chamblee, you got Kutas. And then you got this last class, and obviously the last class is mostly going to work redshirt, and then you have some holdovers from the Morris's classes. So I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing maybe the lack of good depth on the offensive line, as far as older guys. Usually Arkansas's offensive line is much better when they got those third, fourth, fifth year guys on the offensive line, and you don't have that right now in some positions, and I think that's a little bit of a disadvantage, obviously.
Second year guy, redshirt freshman Patrick Kutas, who you just referenced, Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. He might get called upon to be center this Saturday night. I know they practiced that a little bit. Richard, did he play that position in high school too, or is that something that they're just trying to tinker with his skill set?
Not that I'm not that I'm aware of. Now he practiced at center last year, mm-hmm. and he was kind of the backup then. So this is not something different. But I do know. I remember going through some notes that he was talked about having the possibility of playing center in college because he has a physical makeup of a center along with his mental makeup. He's very, very intelligent, high IQ, football IQ guy. So, I mean, I think there will obviously be a little bit of an adjustment game situation if he plays that position. But I think long term, I think he's probably going to be your guy, especially with Limber, leaving after this year. So he's definitely capable, and I think that's probably a good move because obviously he's going to have help at center if he doesn't indeed play that position versus being out on an island.
Richard Davenport with us on the McClarty Daniel Hotline. Artie, what's your take on all this social media stuff? Coach taking his account down, other things going on with social media. Is this more of a media story? Does this have an actual real effect in the world that you cover?
Negativity is always not good for a program, but at the same time, and I was talking to a parent the other day, and every parent said, and hey, let's face it, the criticism is fine, but some of the craziness is obviously just it's not good. I mean, it's just some people just don't know how to communicate their frustration without taking personal shots or even making threats through DMs and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's happening, but that every fan base has that, and we see that throughout the country, and we see reports. But I was talking to a parent, and he took it in stride. Said every fan base has the extreme, and I think that's probably what you're seeing with some of the fans and stuff like that. But as far as Coach Pittman not being on Twitter, yeah, it's somewhat of unusual. But at the same time, you got to take care of yourself, especially when you're trying to focus on the team. And some people will understand, some people don't understand. So it's a little unusual, but at the same time, when you're going through a little bit of a losing streak like Arkansas is, every fan base is going to be upset, and they're going to let you hear it.
Well, and I'm sure when Alabama lost to Texas, there were some things that happened in that state on social media that was probably less than desirable. And, it's one thing for a 60 or 61-year-old man who's the head coach to deal with it. But when he was talking about, being a counselor to some of his players, I mean, we all think of these players as grown-ups. They're because they're full-sized adults physically, but emotionally, anyone that's raised kids knows that, hey, you usually have it all figured out. And when we look back on our own lives till, somewhere in your mid to late 20s is when you kind of usually put it all together. And there's a lot emotionally to deal with when people are, I guess, coming after you or attacking your closest friends in the world on social media. And the idea that these kids are just going to turn it off, put it down, not pay attention, I think is also unrealistic as well. So there's another aspect to it that the coach has got to provide some kind of cushion or sounding board or however you want to phrase it for these players to emotionally deal with this. And I don't think that's exclusive to Arkansas.
No, not at all. And Sam was 100% right. Obviously 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have social media, and whenever you went through a losing streak or something like that, or some hard times, kids may get emails if people were able to find their emails. But
it was the letter to the editor that bothered you more than anything. When
exactly.
You wrote a letter to the newspaper and they published it.
So it's a lot different now because if the kids have open DMs, which I'm sure some have probably closed their DMs, to people that are not their followers or what have you. But you look at what's going on with bullying and schools, and this is exactly what it is towards the athletes. But when we went to school, there was bullying, but it wasn't bullying at school. Was it bullying online? It is a different world, and then you got cowards out there, cowards that DM kids or send crazy threats or what have you towards these kids. yeah, that'll mess with you, and it'll mess with the parents too. I can promise you that. And I really wish it. You know, we've heard of death threats at Ohio State, a few other, Notre Dame. I'm sure it happens at Arkansas and all the other schools in the country. I would like to see schools prosecute those guys. If you somehow you could find and track down people who send those threats, I'd like to see those people prosecuted. I really would. I think we got to slow it down at some point.
I just handle it a little different. If you want to attack that athlete, then and you want to make a threat, you're just brought to the football center and you got to say it to their face, and then whatever happens.
Yeah.
That'd stop it.
Well, yeah, that would stop it. But I mean, obviously they're cowards for a reason, and
exactly.
They're obviously not going to do that. But I really would like to see people like that prosecuted, because they hide behind fake names and all that. They don't have the guts to put out their real name, and they need to be exposed. And that would kind of slow it down a little bit. It wouldn't stop it, but it would slow it down a little bit.
Go ahead, Mr. Porkjowl. Tell Mr. Chamblee here what you think about his protection at left tackle.
Yeah,
just stand back and watch.
That's the thing. That's what I try to tell people.
76, tell us what you think.
That's what I tell people. I say, I have a written rule to myself. If I wouldn't say it to a person's face, I'm not going to say it on social media. Mm-hmm. And, of course, a lot of these people, and I've had some conversations with some people about that. And it's, I would. Yeah, I wouldn't. No, you're a coward. You wouldn't do it. Yeah. Sorry.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.